what I don't understand is when people are like, well, back in my day, you just, sucked it up and nobody had these problems. They did. There just wasn't either a word for it, or it wasn't acceptable to talk about that, or they didn't have the family structure, or there was no support system.
Yeah, nobody talks about the fact that you kind of have to pick and choose what you focus on, because if you take a breadth look at all the cases going on, it makes you a little like we just had a school shooting yesterday.
Where?
It was a 15-year-old.
The
15.
The fact that my immediate reaction isn't holy shit. Are
You're
you
like,
for real?
where?
I'm like, where?
Is this the one I just heard about?
Correct. That's a problem. The fact, and I hate when I react that way, when my immediate reaction isn't like heartbroken, holy crap, where, how many, what, it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, another one? Where did this one happen?
I hate that.
That's where we are.
Yeah, and it makes me sad every time, but I haven't heard about that one.
Do you think that's a mental health thing? Or do you think that's a gun thing? Or more nuanced than both?
I think it's both. I would say my initial reaction is that I'm leaning more towards that it's like a gun thing, in the sense that these mental health issues have always been a thing because people have always had brains and chemical imbalances and everything like that. But then when you're given access to more tools, and there is a lack of support, I think it's a mental health thing. I think it's a gun thing. I think it's a societal thing. I think it's a family values thing. I think it's, it's a lot of things coming into play to make one big, huge crap pot, of a shit situation. Because I don't think that it's with kids that, are necessarily maybe taught like gun safety or things like that. I think it's with kids that don't necessarily understand. I guess I can't say that as much now with like the current school shootings. I think in the beginning, of like this becoming a big issue, but I think now there's been so many that like everybody knows about it. In the sense that, what a way to deal with your problems. Go ahead. Especially because I think the majority of them is suicide by cop or suicide before, anybody can enter the building. So I think the motive is like, let me just hurt as many people as possible. I'm going to die anyway. I'm not going to be held responsible.
I think this kid surrendered. I know he's not dead. I know they didn't kill him.
Or they'll surrender and then, they just face what it is that you don't go into a situation like that, I can't imagine, and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to go home. And
everything's gonna be fine.
I think that I can't say that it's the case for everybody, but I think that there's an element of like punishment for their own, feelings of that they want to create their own punishment in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's, that the ultimate goal is suicide, whether that be by cop, SWAT, or themselves, or, that, and I think for some people, for violence incidences, they are like, hey, I can't trust myself, so let me show you what I'm capable of and what I've been thinking about doing so that you can lock me up so that I won't be a risk to other people because I can't control myself. I think that that's the case for some people. I wish that there was a different way they would go about it, but that's not my call. But I don't know necessarily what the issue is. I don't think that it's not a gun issue. I don't think it's solely a gun issue though either. But I don't think it's solely a mental health issue. Like I said, I think it's a whole lot of things. There's a reason that these weren't a thing hella years ago. What the exact catalyst is, I don't know.
You don't think mental health has gotten worse though recently? Within the past, like I would say since like early 2000s when social media and
that's where I struggle is I don't know that it's necessarily gotten worse in the sense that, there are, more people necessarily struggling with these kinds of things. I think that, and that very well could be, like you said, social media could definitely, I think, plays into it. I don't know how much of uptick that puts in it without having really read about it or comprehensively
Having
thought
some
about it.
data, yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays into it, but I don't think what I don't understand is when people are like, "Well, back in my day, you just, sucked it up and nobody had these problems." They did. There just wasn't either a word for it, or it wasn't acceptable to talk about that, or they didn't have the family structure, or there was no support system. I think as much as social media has hurt a lot of people, it's helped a lot of people, because that gives you, if you have shit support in your family or your hometown, or you have no friends or whatever like that, you can form relationships and friends that can be life-saving and life-changing from somebody across the globe that you would have never had access to beforehand. So I don't know what the ratio of like good and bad is as far as like how much it's helpful and how much it's harmful. Especially I think for like youth. But I mean, I think it plays into it, but I don't think that, depression and anxiety, which are, I'm only saying that because those are like the two more common, um, they didn't just pop up in our generation. They've been around. There's a reason that there's been, different volumes of the DSM. There's a reason that we've had psychologists from way back when, because there's been mental health issues the whole time. We just maybe have a more well-versed society to talk about it or treat them, or more acceptable, so people feel like they can talk about it, and they're not, suffering in silence, or, dying from, by their own hand, or drugs or whatever. I mean, that's definitely still a problem. And I don't, unfortunately, think it'll ever get to zero, which is obviously the goal, but I don't know that you can't reach everybody, unfortunately. Um, but I don't get the notion of like, well, nobody ever had anxiety back in my day.